So today we're finally doing the first premium review that I've made on this channel. This one is, like I said, my first one, so if you have any suggestions or any feedback for future reviews, feel free to leave some suggestions or feedback in the comments down below. I would really appreciate that. Timestamps are as always in the description down below, so if you want to skip ahead to a specific timestamp, feel free to do that, and I would say now let's start with the premium review. So the first thing I want to start with are the statistics of this vehicle. So we have the Leopard 2 PzBtl 123, which is of course a rank 6 premium pack vehicle, which sits at the battle rating of 10.0, so a very high battle rating premium tank right here. And this one of course costs 60 bucks in the Gaijin store. You also get 2000 golden eagles and I believe 15 days of premium. Definitely something I want to mention is on November 7th, I believe the premium pack sale starts, so you might be able to pick this one up for a discounted price. So if you want to get this one and you've been kind of holding off until now, you may be able to get this one with a discounted price tag, which is quite nice. So for this first review in the background, you're gonna have some gameplay of course, and now let's talk about the tank itself and its statistics and characteristics of course. Let's start with the armor. So armor wise, this tank is protected by a composite armor. We have a very nice layout for the turret. It is pretty well protected. There's two weak spots I would say on the turret itself, which are of course the gun breech and of course the optics right here. Those are the main two weak spots where people can easily shoot through. Of course if you get up tiered, people can just shoot through the turret, but if you get down tiered, this is a pretty reliable turret and with pretty decent armor. The hull is of course protected also by composite armor, but it isn't really noteworthy to be honest because people can shoot through it anyways. Sometimes when you angle the hull like this, you might get an occasional bounce, but it is definitely not something to rely on, and it was something I wanted to mention. Mobility wise, this tank is pretty nice to be honest. We have a very nice top speed of 69 kilometers per hour in realistic battles, and also a comfortable reverse speed of 31 kilometers per hour, so pretty nice to be honest. Weight wise, this tank weighs around 55 tons, which is quite heavy I would say. In comparison, we have the T72 AV Terms with 43 tons, and then of course the XM1 with 51 tons, so this one is definitely quite heavy to be honest. However, we have a very powerful engine with 1500 horsepower, so this tank has a very respectable power to weight ratio of 27.17 horsepower per tons, which is pretty nice, and you can definitely feel like this tank is very mobile and pretty nice to flank as well, so really great. Next up, let's talk about the crew layout. So for the crew, we have 4 crew members right here. We have of course the commander, the gunner, the loader, and the driver. Quite a standard loadout I would say, at least for German tanks, and the commander has commander override, so he's able to fire the gun if the gunner gets killed as an example or knocked out. You can actually use the gun anyways with the commander, which is quite nice, a very nice feature. Repair cost wise, this tank has a repair cost of 4,560 silver lions, so I would say quite affordable, not as affordable as some Russian tanks are, but still quite decent to be honest. Other costs are listed right here on screen, so feel free to take a look at those, but now let's move on to equipment. For equipment, we have a laser rangefinder, night vision, Gen 1 thermals for the gunner, and 2-plane stabilizers, so pretty decent stuff. We also have, of course, as per usual with German tanks, very great optics. We have gunner optics, which have 4x to 12x zoom, and commander optics with 2x to 8x zoom, so really fantastic to be honest. The gun is also very nice. We have a 120mm L44 cannon pretty much, with 9 degrees of gun depression and 20 degrees of gun elevation, which is pretty nice to be honest, and I think that's not too bad. The next point is going to be the ammunition. We have access to 3 different ammo types. We can quickly take a look at the different ammo types right here. Like I said, the M12, which is Heat FS. We also have the M13 right here, and last but not least, of course, the M23, so pretty nice and pretty respectable penetration as well. In comparison to some other tanks, the ammunition is decent at best. With Russian tanks, you definitely have to aim for weak spots. Other than that, of course, it is still pretty good. Last but not least, of course, for ammunition, in total you can store 42 ammunition, which is quite decent. 15 are stored in the first ammo rack, which you can see right here, which is protected also by a blowout panel, I believe. However, I've noticed every single time the blowout panel gets activated, you have a fire that you cannot extinguish, which is pretty bizarre. Not really sure if that's supposed to happen. Every single time the blowout panel for me gets activated, I pretty much end up dead anyway, so not sure if that's supposed to happen like this, but it is definitely something I noticed. Base reload for this tank is 7.8 seconds, which is quite alright, a little bit long, but not too bad either. And you can get this down to 6 seconds with an ace crew, so quite nice. So those are the statistics for the Leopard 2 PzBtl 123. Another very nice thing, of course, with this tank is it comes with this default camouflage right here, which looks really fantastic, and of course the Camo Net, which is pretty much the main selling point in my opinion for this tank. It looks really great. It would be nice if it would be kind of like a animated thing, so like if you move the tank, The Camo Net kind of moves every now and then as well. I'm not sure if that's really too feasible in War Thunder, but it would have been nice if it wouldn't be just a static object, to be honest. Maybe in the near future they can change that, but for now that's pretty much something I wanted to mention as well, since some people might expect the Camo Net to move, but it is literally static. Now, since a lot of people probably wonder how does this one stack up to the tech tree counterpart, they're pretty much identical. The main difference is of course the Camo Net, which is why I said it's the main selling point of course, and the tech tree variant has a dozer blade, which the premium variant does not get access to, so that's like the main difference between the two. As you can see right here, everything else remains the same, and that's pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, the main difference between the two. So how does the tank play out in a regular match in War Thunder? If you get down tiered, you can use this as a hell down main battle tank pretty much. It has, like I said, pretty decent armor and can be very nice in low tier battles and down tier battles, better said, so you might be able to get some occasional bounces. Like I said, when you angle the tank a little bit, you might be even able to get a bounce off the hull, so definitely not too bad. If you get up tiered, you want to take a role of more like a flank slash support tank, so yeah, hopefully that kind of helps a little bit. Let's take a look at the conclusion from the War Thunder wiki, which I think is actually not too bad. I think this is quite accurate and a pretty decent pro and con conclusion for this tank. So you can now see the pros and cons from the War Thunder wiki. You can see a lot of these things I've also mentioned as well. Long range fights is something I want to mention as well once again, because the Gen 1 thermals sometimes make that a bit tricky. They're very pixelated, so something to keep in mind. Turret armor is pretty decent in down tier battles. Of course in up tier battles people are just gonna shoot through your turret anyway, so like I said, that's kind of why you want to take more of a flanking slash support role in up tier battles. The blowout panels, I've already mentioned that for some bizarre reason I die anyways when those activate. The fire is never extinguishable for me. The same happens in my Puma as well. I'm not sure if that's how blow-up panels are supposed to work, but for some bizarre reason I can never extinguish the fire and then just end up exploding anyway, so I don't really understand them. Besides that, of course, I would say it's a pretty good tank, and now let's get to my personal conclusion. Would I recommend this tank? I would definitely recommend this tank to someone who already has a pretty decent lineup at the 10.0 rank and the German tech tree. If you have a pretty strong lineup, this is just another very great addition. It is, like I said, pretty much identical to the regular Leopard 2A4. If you enjoy that tank, if you enjoy the playstyle with that tank, you're gonna love this one. It has a very nice Camo Net. You don't probably end up using the dozer blade anyway, so it isn't really like a major downside to this tank right here that you lose access to it. I would recommend it. It's pretty nice. One thing I want to mention is the silver line reward boost or multiplier is a little bit lower than on the Leopard A1A1. As you can see right here, it's lower by 0.5. It was just something I wanted to highlight once again, but personally I prefer the Leopard 2 PzBtl in 123 over the Leopard A1A1. This one has literally no armor whatsoever. It has a good gun though. Still Gen 1 thermals of course, so that's kind of something you might have to get used to with the German tech tree. For brand new players, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this vehicle because top tier gameplay is just so much different compared to low tier gameplay. You have thermals, you have night battles of course, and other things as well that just make top tier battles, I would say, a lot more challenging and completely different than low tier battles. You also have jets, helicopters, and other quote unquote obstacles that kind of get in your way, so if you're a brand new player and you think of buying this tank, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because top tier, like I said, is just completely different to low tier, and if you end up buying the tank and you might not enjoying the gameplay that you have at top tier, it might be kind of a waste of money. At the end of the day, of course, it is your decision. This tank is pretty decent in my opinion. I prefer it over the Leopard A1A1. Of course, that's kind of my personal opinion in this case. I think it is more noob friendly, quote unquote, because it does have a little bit of armor that you can use in down tier battles, but like I said, I wouldn't really recommend it to a brand new player. It's your decision. This tank is pretty good in my opinion. I like it. With all of that out of the way, that's going to be the review right here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye guys.